Yes, hello everyone. Good evening, good evening. Good evening to all of you. Everyone, please confirm, am I audible? Am I visible clearly to all of you? Everyone, please confirm in the chat box, am I audible? Am I visible clearly to all of you? Audio video is clear to everyone. Please confirm in the chat box. Good evening, Dadan. Good evening. Okay, audio video is clear to everyone. Very good. How are you all? How are you all? So I hope you all are good and preparing well for your exam. And last class we have covered the topic that was the photogrammetry. So in this class we are going to cover some miscellaneous topic. Again, I am repeating the same thing. Whatever discussion we are going to do in the class is totally related to as per your exam point of view, exam need, and as per your syllabus point of view. So we will discuss in very short way about the GPS, GIS, and remote sensing. GPS is not the part of your syllabus, but when you will practice the previous year question, you will find some question, one or two question related to the GPS. From that point of view, I am also covering the topic GPS. Apart from your gate exam, like in your ESC exam or other state AE or JE exam, sometimes you are getting the question from GPS. So we will discuss about the GPS, GIS, remote sensing, and little bit about the total station as an instrument. So miscellaneous topics will be there, and this is the last lecture, last class of this course. Should we start our discussion? Should we start the basic discussion about the GPS, GIS, and remote sensing? Okay, so let's start the discussion. First, we will discuss about the GPS. So, in our daily life, we are frequently using the GPS. Yes. So, GPS stands for the Global Positioning System. Global Positioning System. So, let's say on the Earth surface there is any point. This is the point. Let's say on the Earth surface this is the point A. Now I want to define the position of this point globally, because as you know, as the reference will change, as the reference will change, measurement will change, yes or no? For example, if I want to define this point A, I am defining this point A with the help of this reference. I am defining the same point with the help of this reference. I am defining the same point with the help of this reference. As the reference will change, you can clearly see the value of the measurement will also change. But now what is our objective? I want to define the point globally. So obviously if you want to define the point globally, you should have coverage of entire earth. If we have proper coordination system, if we can define the for entire earth, if we can define the coordinate system x, y, z, then we can define the position of any point globally, yes or no? So for that, various countries have developed their navigation system. Up, let's understand some basic theory about the GPS. So what they have done, what we have done in the case of GPS, to define the position of the point globally, we have covered the entire earth with the help of the satellite. So there are various navigation system, but the most popular navigation system is GNSS. It stands for Global Navigation Satellite System. GNSS stands for the Global Navigation Satellite System. It is developed by US. So let's first understand about the most popular navigation system, that is GNSS. In the GNSS, what they have done, they have covered the entire earth surface. They have they have covered the entire earth with the number of satellites. So as you can see, these are the orbits. These are the orbits. So for example, this is the earth. So there are orbits like this. These are the orbits. And in each orbit they have placed some satellites. In each orbit they have placed some satellites, and these satellites are continuously revolving around the earth. So in this way we have covered the entire earth with the number of satellites. From here you can expect a question in your exam. In the case of GNSS, there are total 6 orbits are there. Total 6 orbits are there. In each orbit there are 4 satellites. There are 4 satellites in each orbit. So can you tell me what is the total number of satellite in the case of GNSS? Total number of satellites. How much satellites are there in the case of GNSS? Total 6 orbits are there. In each orbit there are 4 satellites. Yes, so can I say in the GNSS there are total 24 satellites are there. Those are continuously revolving around the earth. Those are continuously covering the earth. Discussion till now is clear to everyone. So now what we are doing, in our mobile phone we are using the GPS. Yes or no? In our mobile phone we are using the GPS, but in actual that is the one part of the GPS. That is the one part of the GPS, and we are having the receiver. What GPS we are using, we are having the receiver. So we can broadly classify 3 segments of the GPS. That is also important discussion. That is also important discussion. So there are, what we can do with the help of the GPS. So we can define the position of the observer on the globe or on the earth, find location of the stationary as well as of the moving object. In relation with well-defined coordinate system, we are defining the position of any point. Point positioning will be there, relative positioning will be there of the object. Object may be stationary, object may be moving. Yes, so these are some objective, these are some work that we can do with the help of the GPS. How we can covering the earth surface with the help of the satellites, that part I have also covered. Okay, so let's move to the next part, where we can apply, where this GPS is applicable in all the fields. Now you can say in all the fields there is an application of the GPS, like in surveying, in geology, remote sensing and GIS, for navigation, for military purpose. For all these purposes we are using the GPS. For all these purposes we are using the GPS. So now let's understand one more point. For example, can you tell me Indian navigation satellite system? Do you have any idea about the Indian navigation satellite system? India has developed its own navigation satellite system, and that is the Navik. That is the Navik. So like Russia have developed, China has developed, so every country, major countries have developed their satellite system, navigation satellite system. India is developing the Navik satellite system. I hope this point is clear to everyone. Now we are talking about the some important segment of the GPS. So if we talk about in general, so if we talk about the segment of the GPS, so there are broadly 3 segment of the GPS. Broadly we can define the 3 segment of the GPS. One is the space segment. Another is control segment. and last one is your user segment. Absolutely correct, Dadan. You are absolutely correct. First is the space segment. So for example, if I talk about the space segment of the GPS, if I talk about the space segment of the GPS, so you can say satellites will be the part of the space segment. Yes or no? Satellite will be the part of the space segment. Whatever information they are getting, whatever information they are collecting, they must be sending this information to the ground control station. Yes or no? They are continuously capturing the data, they are continuously capturing the detail, but there should be the proper transmission of that information or that data. So what is actually happening? The information is being transferred to the control segment where we are processing that information. Or at the end, we are the user. We are using for the civil purpose, we are using for the surveying purpose, we are using for the military purposes. There are different application of that data that we are collecting with the help of the satellite from the space segment. The processing of data will be done in the control segment. The information being transferred from the space segment to the control segment, and then ultimately there will be the user segment. Like we are using the GPS for the navigation purpose. We are using the GPS for the navigation purpose. There may be the use of the GPS for the military purposes. Yes or no? So from here you can expect a question. The most important thing about the GPS is, if you want to define the position of any point accurately or precisely, if you want to define the position of any point accurately or precisely, so out of 24 satellites, for example, this is the receiver. This is the receiver. Our receivers must be connected some satellites, otherwise how the information will transfer? If there is no connection between the receiver and the sender, can we get any data? Tell me. If there is no proper connection between the receiver and the sender, is there any communication? Will be there any kind of communication will be there? Answer will be no. So, what is the game behind the working of the GPS? Our receiver, you must have the receiver something like this. Out of 24 satellites, if you want to define the position of any point accurately or precisely, there should be connectivity of your receiver from the minimum 4 satellite. So minimum connections, minimum 4 satellites should be connected to your receiver. Then only you can define the position accurately or precisely. If you want to just define the position, including some error, you can define the position with the help of the 3 satellites also. But if I am talking about I want to define the position of any point accurately or precisely, for that the minimum number of 4 satellites are required, that will be 4. You can remember this thing like this. To define the position of any point, we need some parameter. If you want to define the position of any point, definitely you require some parameter. On that basis, you will define the position of that point, yes or no? You will define the position of that point. So for defining the position of any point, we are taking the 4 parameters into consideration. One is going to be the x coordinate, one is going to be the y coordinate, another will be the z coordinate, and one more parameter that is we are considering, that is the travel time. That is the travel time. So these 4 quantities are there, x, y, z and time. On that basis we are defining the accurate position of any point globally. That's why I am saying minimum connectivity required from the 4 satellites. Out of these 24 satellites, no need to connect with. If you are connected with the more number of satellites, then there will be no problem. But if your connection is less than from 4 satellites, then there may be problem, there may be some error, whatever measurements, whatever position you are defining. So I hope now you have some basic understanding about the GPS. Yes or no? So these are the some points that we should know as per our exam point of view, as per our syllabus point of view, that we should know related to the GPS. If anyone having any doubt, any query, you can ask your doubt, you can ask your query. Which point I need to repeat? This 4 x, y, z and time. Tell me which point I need to repeat. Yellow route. These are the satellites, dear. These are the satellites. Thus, we have discussed in each orbit there are 4 satellites. In each orbit there are 4 satellites. Total 24 satellites are there. So it may be possible that you are not connected with all the. This is your receiver. This is your receiver of the GPS. So it is not possible, for example, at this time, if I am using the GPS receiver, so it will show from how much satellite I am connected. From how much satellite I am connected. It is not possible that we are getting the information that we are getting the connectivity from all 24 satellites. So this is the point. If you want to define the position of any point accurately, what we will do, at least there should be a connectivity from the 4 satellites, because we need to calculate 4 parameters. We need to define 4 parameters to define the position of any point accurately or precisely. 3 are the coordinates x, y, z coordinates, and 4 quantity we are considering into the account for defining the position of any point, that is the time, travel time. How much time the signal, the information is taking to communicate from satellite to the control station or to your that particular point for which you want to define the position. Now I think this point is clear. Now I think this point is clear, yes or no? So once they have asked in your GATE exam, once they have asked a question in the year 2016, if I am not wrong, the minimum number of satellites required to define the position of any point accurately will be, what will be the answer? The minimum number of satellites required to define the position of any point precisely or accurately, yes, answer will be 4. Why 4 satellites are required? Because we need to define 4 quantities, like from one equation we can calculate one unknown. From 2 equations we can calculate 2 unknowns. For example, there are 4 unknowns are there, so minimum 4 equations are required. So just I have related these things, why 4 number of satellites are required. Because we need to define 4 quantity, x coordinate, y coordinate, z coordinate for that particular point, and the time also. Now I think the point is clear to everyone. Now I think the point is clear to everyone. Okay. So this was the discussion related to the GPS. Now the next discussion is related to the GIS. So first and important thing, what is the full form of the GIS? Geographic Information System. It is not any instrument. GIS is not any instrument. It is the overall management of the geographic data. Listen carefully. It is the overall management of the geographic data. Here are 2 important terms are there. Or you can say 3 terms are there that is important that we need to discuss. One is management, another is geographic data, and another is, there are 3 important terms you can say. One is the management, one is the geographic data. Just consider 2 only first. What do you mean by the geographic data? And the third term is system. We will also talk about that. So geographic data, management and system. So whatever features are available on the earth, can we consider the collecting the information, the detail of all those features will be considered as the geographic data? Whatever is visible to you. Whatever is visible to you on the earth surface will be considered as the, or it can be considered as the geographic data, yes or no? Now we want to manage all these in geographic data for the various purpose. For the various purpose. For example, we want some data required from agricultural point of view. We want some data related to the town planning, housing development. We want some data related to the disaster management. Sorry. Yes. So various different application, different uses are there. Users are there. So it is all about the management. Now, sir, management includes what? Yes, we know the meaning of the geographic data, but how we are going to manage this geographic data, what we will do in the case of GIS, how we can define this system, geographical information system. So management of data will include data collection, data storage, data manipulation, data interpretation, data processing. All these are the part of your management of the geographic data. From the collecting to the retrieving to the information, all the parts is included as the data management. I hope this point is clear to everyone. So again, I am concluding, what do you mean by the geographic information system? It is a system that deals with the management of the geographic data. Geographic information. Manage includes collection of the data, storage of the data, manipulation of the data, interpretation of the data, processing of the data, and getting the information from that data. All these things will be the part of the management of the geographical data. I hope this point is clear to everyone. Now you can understand, now you can write. Geographic information system is a system containing the information which is geographic in nature. GIS can be defined as a system which involves collecting and capturing of data. Which data? Geographical data. Storing of the geographical data, processing of that data, manipulating of that data, analyzing that data, managing that data, retrieving the information from that data, displaying that data. All these things will be the part of the management of the data. Please confirm in the chat box if the definition of the GIS is clear to everyone. Everyone, please confirm in the chat box if the definition of the GIS is clear to everyone. And if anyone having any doubt related to the definition of the GIS, you can ask your doubt, you can ask your query. So now the question comes, how we will collect the data? So for the entire management of this data, there are some requirements. There are some resources are required, yes or no? To manage this geographical data, some resources are required. Can you tell me about those resources? For the data management, which resources are required? It's very simple. So first and the foremost important thing, sir, we require data. So from where we can collect the we can get the geographical information data? Various sources are there. To store that data, to process that data, to analyze that data, don't you think we require some software? We require some hardware. And at the end, and the most important, we required user. Yes or no? So first of all, we required data, geographical information, geographical data, various sources are there. We will talk about that. Then the next part is we required certain software like ArcGIS. ArcGIS is a software that we are using for the management of the geographical data. QGIS, these are the different software. ArcGIS, QGIS. There are various GIS softwares which we can use for the management of the geographical data. Software, hardware, system, computer systems are required. And at the end user, for whom we are preparing the data, for whom we are collecting the information. At the last, the most important is the user. So these are the part of your GIS system. These are the part of your GIS system. So as you can see, first and foremost thing, data requires software, hardware, methods for the management, and ultimately user. So you can say these are some important segment, or you can say these are some important parts of the GIS system. These are some important parts of the GIS system. One is the data, another is software, another is hardware, methods, tools and techniques, and last one will be the user. Last one will be the user, which ultimately going to use that information that you have collected, that you have managed. Point is clear? Yes or no? Now let's move to the next slide. So all these points, hardwares are required, software is required, data is required, method is required, and user people is required. So now how we can collect the geographical information? What are the various sources from where we can collect the geographical information system? So we can collect the geographical information system with the help of the map. We can collect the geographical information system with the help of the aerial photograph. We can collect the geographical information system with the help of the satellite image. We can collect the geographical information system from the field observation, like we have done in the case of basic surveying. We can collect the geographical information, other sources are also there. Now what we can do, these are the various sources of the data. These are the various sources of the data, or you can say sources of the geographical data. With the help of the software, can we convert these data into the digital form? With the help of the various GIS software tools and techniques, can we convert this data digitally? Yes or no? Yes, we can. For this you require software. For this you require hardware. Now once you have collected the data, can I say now this will be considered as the GIS database? We have prepared a database. We have collected the information from all the sources. So now can we say in this way we can prepare the GIS database, yes or no? Once the GIS database is prepared, now you can start processing this data. Now you can start processing that data. After that, we can store this data, we can process this data, we can manipulate this data, we can interpret this information from this data, or ultimately this will be provided to the end user. Ultimately it will be provided to the end user. The capturing, displaying of data, whatever you want to do, you can do with the help of the GIS database. As per your user requirement. Most important thing, as per your user requirement. Any doubt to anyone? Any doubt to anyone till now? Any doubt to anyone till now? You can ask your doubt. I hope you got some basic understanding about the GPS and about the GIS also. So this was the overview of the GIS. What actually GIS deals with. We are not going into the depth of all this concept, how we will store the data, how we will manipulate the data, how we will process that data. But in general, now we know manipulate and interpret means editing. You can just add some information or you can remove some information. For example, I was having a map of 20 years back. Now I am having the recent photograph of the same ground or of the same features. Now I can edit. I can remove some old features and I can add some new features. This is the manipulation. Interpretation means whatever you are observing, you are collecting from the database, from the output you are connecting, you are observing that information that is your important for you from your use point of view. That is the interpretation of data. From the overall database, you are collecting information as per your interest. Now I think the doubt is clear. Any other doubt? Any other doubt? Any other query? Clear? Very good. So now we are going to discuss some important thing. In the GIS, the GIS data can be broadly classified as. This is the important discussion. Listen carefully. I will explain each and everything. You just need to listen carefully. So one is the spatial data and another is the non-spatial data. The entire GIS database can be classified in two categories. One is the spatial data and another is the non-spatial data. So first try to understand what do you mean by the spatial data and what do you mean by the non-spatial data. Whatever we are observing, whatever we are seeing on the earth surface, listen carefully. So like some natural features are there, some man-made features are there, yes or no? The exact representation of the existing ground feature is known as the spatial data. The exact whatever we are seeing, if we are representing that data, that will be the spatial form of the data. That will be the spatial form of the data. Non-spatial, what do you mean by the non-spatial data? Some associated data. Some associated data. For example, if I am talking about a town, so let's say this is the town. This is the town A. So for example, these buildings are there. This is the river. This is the pond. These are the tree. So various features are there on this town. If we are representing this information as it is, whatever we are saying, if we are seeing the data where a town, where a river is there, building blocks are there, trees are there, pond are there, then we will say this is the spatial data format. This will be considered as the spatial data format. But what about the non-spatial data? There are some other data that is associated with this town only. Like if I talk about what is the total population? What is the total population of this town? We are not representing, we are not seeing here, but this data is also related to this town, yes or no? What is the total population of male? What is the total population of female? What is the total population of senior citizen? This is also a related data from the same features, yes or no? This information is considered as the non-spatial data. This information is considered as the non-spatial data. So I hope this point is clear to everyone, what is the spatial data and what is the non-spatial data. Whatever we are seeing as it is information, as it is representation is the spatial data. Some associated data which is also very important for defining the characteristics of that feature will be considered as the non-spatial data. Will be considered as the non-spatial data. I hope the point is clear to everyone. Yes or no? Now let's see the further discussion how we can represent the spatial data. What are the various way for representing the spatial data? This is the next part of the discussion. This is the next part of the discussion. So we can represent, to first understand, spatial data is the geographical representation of the feature. In other words, spatial data what we actually see in the form of maps containing the real world features on a computer screen. Spatial data can be further divided into the following two types. One is the vector spatial data and another is the raster spatial data. One is the vector spatial data and another is the raster spatial data. Let's see. So for example, let's refer this image. This is the real world situation. This is the real world situation. I hope you can see. Please confirm in the chat box if you are clearly able to see this feature. Please confirm in the chat box first, then I will explain further. This is the real world situation. Zoom it. कैसे होगा zoom? Now I think you can see. So this is the, let's say, river. This is the vegetation, plantation are there. These are the building blocks. These are the roads. Are you able to see? Are you able to see? Okay. So now I can represent this data in two formats. One is the vector spatial data and another is the raster spatial data. Listen carefully. So for example, if you see this part of the image, so here we are saying we are representing this data, we are describing this data with the help of the point, line or polygons. See carefully. So we are using points, point, line and polygons. So we are representing this information, real world information, in the form of point, in the form of line, in the form of polygon. This is the vector representation of your spatial data. This is the vector representation of your spatial data. We are representing the real life, real world features detail with the help of the point, line or polygon. As you can see, here we have used the point, line and polygon like this. Different layers are there. Different layers we are using for representing the data. I hope this point is clear to everyone. In the case of raster data format, what you will see, we are representing the same information with the help of the pixels. Like if I zoom it more, the image is going to blur. Yes or no? You will not able to see the object clearly. So, with the help of these pixels, we are representing the information. With the help of these pixels, these are your pixels. With the help of these pixels, we are representing the, as you can see, you can observe the pixels here. If we are representing the spatial data, let me conclude. If we are representing the spatial data with the help of the point, line or polygon, we will say that is the vector spatial data. If we are representing the geographical information with the help of the pixel, we will say that is the raster spatial data. I hope the difference between the vector and raster data format is clear to everyone. And if anyone having any doubt, you can ask your doubt. What is the vector data spatial data? What is the raster spatial data? The difference between the vector and raster spatial data is clear to everyone. So first we have classified the data in two types. One is the first was the spatial data and another was the non-spatial data. Now we have also discussed the classification of spatial data. One is the vector spatial data, where we are representing the information with the help of the point, line or polygon, and another is the raster spatial data, where we are representing the information with the help of the pixels. Please confirm in the chat box if the discussion till now is clear to everyone. Everyone, please confirm in the chat box if the discussion about the data format is clear to everyone. Any doubt to anyone? Can we move further? I have already explained about the non-spatial data. So in the case of vector layers, we are representing with the help of the point. We are representing the information with the help of the point, lines and polygons, like political boundary, linguistic regions, street, trade routes. Now let's talk about the pixels. As you can see here, we have represented the data in the form of small pixels like this. In the form of small pixels like this. So that is the raster representation. And we have already discussed about the non-spatial data like population, male female population, 60 plus population, senior citizen population. This is some attribute associated data. I hope the point is clear to everyone. Where the GIS is applicable in each and every field, the most important thing is data. Yes or no? For any field, can we say the most important thing is data? And GIS is all about the data. GIS is all about the management of the geographical information. So that can we say it is also applicable in all the fields. GIS will be applicable. GIS data is going to be useful in all the fields. Yes or no? So like in the environmental segment, in the case of environment, you can say GIS is useful. Geology for geological purpose, agricultural purpose. Again, you can see for crop yield, irrigation, soil management. For all these things, you require data. And this data you will get from the GIS. This data you are going to get from the GIS. For urban planning, for natural resource management, for natural hazard management. In all these fields, GIS is going to be useful. GIS is going to be helpful. Yes or no? Here, one important point is there that you need to remember, that you need to understand. Tell me, can GIS is going to be helpful for the prediction of the earthquake? Here, just you can see, here we have mentioned for natural hazard management, that is due to the earthquake, due to the drought, due to the fire. In this field, the GIS is useful. But listen my question carefully. I am asking, is the GIS is useful for the prediction of the earthquake? Is the GIS is useful for the prediction of the earthquake? Yes or no? Tell me, dear. Is the GIS is useful in the case of prediction of the earthquake? Whatever you are thinking, you can post in the chat box. No problem with that. How, Dadan, how? Answer will be no. With the help of GIS data, we cannot predict the earthquake, dear. With the help of, there is no technique still now that is available from which you can predict the earthquake. When earthquake will be there, where earthquake will be there. There is no method to predict the earthquake. Read carefully here, they have mentioned natural hazard management. So whatever casualty will be there, whatever hazard will be there due to the earthquake, to manage that hazard, GIS data is going to be useful. But for the prediction of the earthquake, GIS data is not going to be useful. GIS will not help you. I hope you got the point. So whatever hazard will be there, whatever casualty will be there, whatever effect will be there due to the earthquake, due to the drought, due to the fire, for managing those hazard, GIS will play important role. No. There is no method for the prediction of the earthquake, dear. So this was the important point. In the exam, they are asking the question like this, so do not get confused. Point is clear now? Point is clear? Can we move further? Can we move further? Like natural hazard management due to the flood or cyclone, landslide and soil erosion, volcano. For the hazard management, GIS will help you. Yes. So now let's move to the land information system for preparing the policy, rural and cadastral development, urban development, utility sector, power sector, telecom sector, transport sector. In all these fields, GIS is going to help you. Next topic that we are going to cover, that is the remote sensing. So we have discussed about the basics of the GPS. We have also discussed about the basics of the GIS. Now similarly we are going to discuss about the remote sensing. It is again very easy and simple concept. All of you are going to get easily understand. Just listen carefully. What do you mean by the remote? For example, this is the remote. So what I can do from the range, I can just put the on button, AC will on. I can put off the button, AC will off. Yes or no? Otherwise, if this remote were not there, if I need to on the AC, I have to physically go there. Yes or no? So I have to manually switch off or switch on the AC. But with the help of this remote, without establishing physical contact between the object, I am able to access that object. Yes or no? I am able to access that object. Is there any instrument to predict natural disasters? No, dear. Especially in the case of earthquake. Yes, in the case of cyclone, this data will be helpful. So various cyclones problems are there in the country, you must have seen. So we have some information. There is no such instrument. You cannot predict the instrument. For example, weather forecasting is there. So weather forecasting we are doing based on the data only, na? Weather forecasting, for example, tomorrow the temperature range will from 27 to 30 degree. How we are saying? We are saying based on the data. Yes or no? Tomorrow there may be the chances of the rain. This information whatever information we are getting from the satellites, after processing that information, we are just predicting. Yes or no? Like there will be cyclone. So we can just rescue all the people from there. We know the impact. So, but for earthquake prediction, there is no any data or there is no any instrument. Point is clear, Pooja? So the question was, can GIS is going to be useful for the prediction of earthquake? This was my question. So GIS will not help in the case of prediction of earthquake. As of now, we don't have any methods from which we can predict the earthquake. Maybe in future we can develop some tools and techniques. That will be the separate discussion. So yes, we were talking about the remote sensing. So with the help of this remote, can I say I can access my AC without being in physical contact with the AC? Can I say like this? Tell me. That means we are accessing the feature without being establishing the physical contact between the observer and the feature. So here the objective of the remote sensing is still same. We want to collect the information, but this time we are not getting close, we are not getting in physical contact with the object. So this method of collection of data is known as the remote sensing. Yes, this method of collection of data, this techniques of collection of data is known as the remote sensing. So collection of data from a remote location without being physical contact is known as the remote sensing. Without being physical contact is known as the remote sensing. Now the next question comes, how we can collect the information. As you can see, there are different objects are there. Like this is the agricultural field, this is the greenery, as you can say. For example, there is a building block, there is a building block, there is a pond, yes, there is a soil. Every material have some different characteristics, yes or no? How we will able to collect the information without establishing the physical contact? This is the point. Yes, you can ask. Dadan, you can ask. Ask your doubt. Why did not mathematics classes going on the continuously? Because Vishal Soni sir is suffering from some health issues. So whatever information that I am having right now, he is suffering from some health issues. Due to the health issue, your classes are not continuously holding. As soon as sir will recover, your classes will resume, your classes will start. Clear, Dadan? Point is clear? There is a delay in your mathematics classes due to the health issue of the sir. Yes. I have mentioned the same point, Dadan. Can we move further? Yes, so your classes, your syllabus should not delayed. So there may be some change in the planning, but sir is unable to take the class due to the health issue. As soon as sir will recover, he will take the class. Can we move further? So let's try to understand how we are getting the information about the object, about the feature, without being establishing the physical contact with that object. This is the point. So let's just take simple observation. For example, in the case of summer, if we are wearing the dark color cloth, we feel more heat, yes or no? Why? So always it is recommended कि in the summer use light color cloth. Wear light color cloth. Why? You must know. You must know the reason for that. If we are wearing the dark color cloth in the sunny season, in the summer season, you will feel more temperature. Because dark color observe the light and heat. बिल्कुल सही बात है, absolutely correct. So whenever we will provide the light, it will absorb more quantity and reflect less quantity. Yes or no? So can I say every object have its own characteristics? Every object had its own characteristics to absorb some radiation or to reflect. Yes or no? We have considered this point only. We are here in the case of remote sensing. What we are going to do? We are going to use some energy source. We are going to use electromagnetic radiation. We are just observing whatever amount of energy we have provided to the object, what was the absorbed energy and what was the reflected energy. Based on that basis, we are collecting the information about the object. So as I was discussing the example, as you can see, every object has some different characteristics. Amount of energy absorbed and the amount of energy reflected will be different for all the objects, yes or no? Will be different for all the objects due to the different characteristics. Due to the different characteristics, yes or no? Based on that concept, we are collecting the information in the case of remote sensing. I hope this point is clear to everyone. So here the question comes. This is the ideal remote sensing system. So let's say this is the sun. Sun is emitting the electromagnetic radiation. This radiation comes to all the objects, as you can see. This radiation comes to all the objects like forest, water, grass, bare soil, paved road, built up area. Now, these objects are going to absorb some radiation, solar radiation, and it will also reflect this solar radiation, and this reflected data will be collected by the satellite. And now this satellite will transmit this information to the ground station. Now this satellite will transmit this information to the ground station, and at the ground station we are going to process this data, and finally we will prepare the data for the user applicability, for the user use. So in this way we are collecting the information in the case of remote sensing. So what are the main points of the ideal remote sensing system? So as you can see, sir, there must be a uniform energy source. There must be a non-interfering atmosphere, a series of unique energy matter interaction at the Earth's surface. A super sensor is required to collect the reflected data. A real-time data handling system which can transmit the data from the satellite to the ground control station, and at the end multiple data users are there. So these are the parts of the ideal remote sensing system. In this way we are getting the information, we are collecting the information without establishing the physical contact between the observer and the object. The discussion about the ideal remote sensing is clear to everyone? Tell me in the chat box. The discussion about the ideal remote sensing is clear to everyone? So, energy source is there, solar radiation will be there, interaction will be there, reflection will be there, capturing by the super sensor, transferring the data to the ground station, and ultimately we are going to prepare this data from user use point of view. So this was the basic concept. There are two types of the remote sensing system. Listen carefully. There are two types of the remote sensing system. One is the passive remote sensing system and another is the active remote sensing system. You must have used your mobile camera. You must have used your mobile camera, yes or no, for clicking the photographs. For example, if there is a dark room, will you able to take the photograph without any light? Will you able to take photograph? Answer will be no. So for example, during the daytime, you want to click the photograph, so you are not going to use the flashlight of your camera, because at the daytime availability of sun is there. You are using the natural light as a source of energy. You are using the natural light as a source of energy for capturing the detail, yes or no? So during the daytime we are not using the flashlight of the camera. But if we talk about the during the night hours when the natural source of energy is not there, so our camera is having its own energy, yes or no? Self energy source is there. So during the night hours what we can do, we can use the flashlight of the camera for clicking the photograph, for capturing the photograph, yes or no? When the natural light is not available. So the system which uses the natural energy as a source of energy is known as the passive remote sensing system. A remote sensing system which uses the passive source of energy is known as the natural source of energy is known as the passive remote sensing system. But in the case of active remote sensing system, self source of energy is required. Self source of energy is required. So this is the difference. This is the difference between the active remote sensing system and passive remote sensing system. So as you can refer now, it detects the reflected or emitted radiation from the natural source like sun's energy. The sensor emits the radiation which is directed towards the target to be investigated. The radiation reflected from that target is detected and measured by the sensor. Advantage includes the ability to obtain the measurement anytime. It is not dependent, because it has its own source of energy, so it can work anytime. So you can refer this slide for the better understanding. Let's say, so these are the sensor, no self source of energy. They are using the sun's energy as a source of energy. This is your passive remote sensing system. In this diagram, you can see there is a sensor having its own source of energy for the radiation and for the reflection. This is the active remote sensing system. This is the active remote sensing system. So if I talk about the application, again, remote sensing is also applicable in all the fields, like in the agriculture, in the forestry, in the land use and soil, in the geological field, in the urban land use, in the water resource management, coastal environment management, and disaster, etc. In all these fields, remote sensing is going to be helpful. So please tell me in the chat box, now do you have some basic understanding about the GPS, GIS and remote sensing? Tell me in the chat box. Tell me in the chat box. And still, if you have any doubt, any query, you can ask your doubt, you can ask your query. Okay, so now let's discuss some basic things about the one more instrument that is not the part of your modern surveying, that is the total station. So in your basic surveying, you can say we are using frequently this instrument for the measurements. So first and foremost thing, from the total station, may you elaborate the application of remote sensing? Again, the same point is there. Dear, it's all about the data. Whatever data you are collecting with the help of the remote sensing system, that data may be useful. That data may be useful in which field? That data may be useful in which field? So like for the crop yielding, for agricultural purpose that data is required. Forestry, what is the land cover, what is the land use, how the forest. I am giving the practical example, dear. I am giving the practical example. Which is the time? Which is the time? What is the soil condition that should be suitable for the development of the plants? In any season, at any time, we cannot uh, crop the field. Yes or no? So, what is the suitability? That information you will get if you have data. In the case of land use and land cover, soil conditions, forestry, over the period of time, forests are decreasing in some place, forest number of plants are increasing in another place. So how you can collect the data? With the help of the remote sensing. Yes. Geological fields are there. Urban land use. What urban land use means? For example, we are using for the constructing the road infrastructural development. What is the what is the quantity of land that we are using for the development of the infrastructure, for development of the residential services, for development of the commercial services, for development of the standard in the industry. So all these information you can get with the help of the remote sensing. All these information you can get from the remote sensing data. Clear? And others. I hope this point is clear now. Any other doubt? Any other doubt? Any other query? Can we discuss about the total station? If you have any other doubt, any other query, you can ask your doubt, you can ask your query. Otherwise, please confirm in the chat box so that we can proceed further. Dadan, please confirm in the chat box, dear. If your doubts and queries are clear, you can confirm in the chat box. Dadan, are you there in the class? So no response from Dadan. So I'm expecting up your doubts is and queries are clear. So we were talking about the total station. We were talking about the total station. So total station is the instrument. It is the combination of electronic theodolite. It is the combination of electronic theodolite and EDM. It is the combination of electronic theodolite and EDM. इलेक्ट्रॉनिक थियोडोलाइट्स की हेल्प से यू कैन मेजर द हॉरिजेंटल एंगल, you can measure the horizontal angle, and you can also measure the vertical angle. As we have discussed, with the help of theodolite we can easily measure the horizontal angle, we can measure the vertical angle also. So with the help of electronic theodolite we can measure both the angles, or you can say any angle. EDM stands for the electromagnetic distance measurement. Electromagnetic, or you can add I, electromagnetic distance measurement instrument. Electromagnetic distance measurement instruments. And with the help of EDM you can measure the horizontal distance, you can measure the horizontal distance, you can measure the vertical distance also. So from total station we can measure all four quantities. So from this point we have started our discussion. If you want to define the position, relative position of any point, you need to perform the two types of the measurement. One will be the linear measurement, another will be the angular measurement. Yes or no? So if I talk practically, in the field, in your engineering work, in majorly we are going to use the total station. So now we are not for the engineering projects, we are not using frequently chain or tape or normal theodolite, etc. Plane table survey, etc. Because it is very convenient. In the total station you can store the data. Some features are added. Whatever survey you are doing on the field, you can just store the data. You can connect your total station with the help of with your system, with your computer, and you can easily transfer all that data. Yes. So more frequently the instrument that we are using for the surveying for the practical purposes is going to be the total station. It is the combination of the electronic theodolite and the EDMI. With the help of the electronic theodolite we can measure the angles, horizontal angle and vertical angle, and with the help of the EDMI we can measure the horizontal distance and vertical distance. So in short we can summarize as, from the total station we can perform all types of the measurement for defining the relative position of the point. So in this way we have completed our entire syllabus for the surveying. So just quickly see from where we have started. The first chapter was fundamental of surveying. In this course we have covered all these chapters, and I hope you all have followed all the classes. So the second chapter was the linear measurement. Linear measurement, in which we have discussed about the chain and tape surveying. The third chapter that we have covered, that was the compass surveying. The next chapter that we have covered was the traverse surveying. Then we have discussed about the labeling. Then we have discussed about the trigonometrical labeling. We have also discussed about the contours. We have discussed about the plane table survey. We have discussed about the theodolite. We have discussed about the calculation of area and volume. We have discussed about the tachyometry survey. We have also discussed about the errors and accuracy. We have discussed about the curve. We have discussed about the photogrammetry survey. Photogrammetry surveying. And we have also discussed about the basics of GPS, GIS, remote sensing, and total station. So these are the topics that we have covered in this course. And I hope you all have enjoyed this course. In this way, we have completed the discussion of surveying from your GATE exam point of view, from your ESE exam point of view, as well as from your state AE and JE exam point of view. So I hope you learned all the concepts very effectively. You must have practiced all the PYQs. So best wishes for your exam, and keep revising your concepts whatever we have covered. Do not forget, because you are preparing for GATE 2024, GATE 2025 exam. So it's have time. So whatever concept you have covered, just keep revising, keep practicing all the concepts so that you can retain all these concepts till your exam. So best wishes for your exam. This was all about for this course. Thank you everyone. Keep learning, beta. Thank you.